This analysis examines the structural imposition of the opium economy in French Indochina, a system designed for colonial domination. The French state engineered mass addiction as a fiscal instrument to finance its rule. Prior to the mid-19th century, Vietnam lacked a large-scale opium economy. Usage was strictly limited to medicinal or ritual contexts, with no evidence of widespread addiction or state dependence on opium revenues. Following the 1858 invasion, France struggled to finance its military occupation without subsidies from Paris. Opium provided the solution, as authorities systematically expanded imports and legalized consumption through a network of licensed outlets. By taxing opium heavily, the colonial administration transformed addiction into a predictable revenue stream. This strategy effectively turned the captive Vietnamese population into the primary source of funding for their own foreign occupation. The system was formalized in 1897 with the establishment of the colonial opium monopoly, a decisive act of fiscal coercion. The state gained exclusive control over production, processing, and all sales across the territory. The monopoly set prices to maximize state revenue rather than protect public health. While the state encouraged consumption of its own product, it simultaneously criminalized any non-state opium trade to maintain its total grip. Through this rigid structure, Vietnamese citizens were prohibited from producing opium independently, but were systematically encouraged to consume the state's supply. This dependency was engineered specifically to finance the machinery of their subjugation. The social consequences were devastating, creating a public health catastrophe that embedded intergenerational addiction within society. There was no meaningful treatment system provided. Instead, the state only offered punishment for illicit use. When international supply lines were threatened, the state coerced highland minority communities into raw opium production. This deepened ethnic marginalization and regional instability, forcing these communities into the colonial extractive web. The massive revenues generated from the opium monopoly directly funded the colonial infrastructure of repression. This included the maintenance of the colonial police force, the construction of prisons, and various military campaigns. The collapse of this system resulted from the disintegration of colonial authority after World War II rather than internal reform. For new post-colonial state builders, prohibition became a political necessity to reject this symbol of exploitation. In summary, the French opium regime was a calculated instrument of power. It manufactured mass addiction where none existed, financed colonial repression with the suffering of the colonized, and normalized vice as governance. This was not accidental harm, but the intended outcome of a system designed for extraction and control. The legacy of the opium monopoly remains a stark example of how fiscal policy can be weaponized.